Imagine donating money to help orphan children or rebuild war-torn communities, only to discover that your generosity was funding one of the most dangerous terrorist organizations in history. That's exactly how Osama bin Laden operated. On the surface, his charities promised hope, providing food, shelter, and education to those in desperate need. But beneath the facade, these so-called humanitarian efforts became a financial pipeline for Al-Qaeda's deadly missions. What's worse, most donors had no idea they were fueling violence instead of saving lives. This is the story of how bin Laden weaponized compassion for his war. But what did life look like for him in hiding? Let's explore a single day from his life during his years in Abbottabad, Pakistan, and see why, despite his infamy, it absolutely sucked to be him. Osama bin Laden started his day before the sun rose, kneeling on a thin prayer rug in the small, dimly lit room he called his bedroom. This ritual brought structure to his life, but it was also a grim reminder of his reality. The muffled noises of the world outside, dogs barking, distant cars, and occasional shout, kept him on edge. The compound was deliberately isolated. High concrete walls lined with barbed wire shut out both intruders and escape. Windows were minimal, and heavy curtains blocked any accidental glimpses of the outside world. His paranoia wasn't misplaced. Intelligence agencies from nearly every major nation were hunting him, using satellites, drones, and informants to track his every move. Every sound felt like a threat. Breakfast was simple: bread, eggs, and occasionally honey, far removed from the luxuries he could have afforded. His meals, prepared by trusted family members, were thoroughly inspected. Poisoning was a constant fear, even among those closest to him. Bin Laden once remarked that loyalty was rare and fleeting, a harsh reality that shaped every interaction. Even the smallest decisions in his morning routine came with risks. Should he step outside for fresh air? Should his children play in the courtyard? These were moments most people wouldn't think twice about. But for him, they could mean life or death. He'd occasionally glance at the sky, searching for drones. If the idea of living with this level of anxiety resonates, hit the like button. It's a stark reminder that paranoia can be the ultimate prison. By midday, bin Laden retreated to the study on the second floor of his compound. This room was bare, save for a desk, a few bookshelves, and a small stack of papers. Here, he worked on what he believed was the future of Al-Qaeda. Letters to his followers, commands for new operations, and responses to reports from his couriers consumed his time. Every piece of communication had to be meticulously encrypted. His couriers were the lifeline to the outside world, but they were also the greatest risk. Any one of them could be caught or coerced into revealing his location. This level of operational secrecy was exhausting. Despite his millions, his world was bleak. His wealth couldn't buy him freedom, and it certainly couldn't buy him peace. The money that once funded lavish travels and grand operations was now tied up in endless layers of intermediaries, inaccessible to him directly. Even his family paid the price for his choices. His children were homeschooled within the compound, unable to enjoy the normal experiences of childhood. They couldn't run outside, make friends, or explore. His wives and children were essentially prisoners, and he knew it. But for bin Laden, his vision of jihad mattered more than their freedom. If this sounds like the kind of life you'd never want, leave a comment below. How would you cope with riches but no freedom? As the day stretched on, bin Laden would meet with his family. Conversations were limited to the mundane: meals, lessons, household concerns. But even in these moments, his ideology hung over everything like a storm cloud. His children were expected to grow up as the next generation of Al-Qaeda, and his wives were meant to support his vision without question. Afternoons were also the time for study. Bin Laden often read religious texts or reviewed writings by Islamist scholars like Sayyid Qutb. These works reinforced his beliefs and kept him rooted in his mission, but they also served as chains, binding him to an uncompromising path. He couldn't waver, even if he wanted to. To his followers, he was a symbol of unshakable conviction. Any sign of doubt or humanity could destroy his reputation. Within Al-Qaeda, dissent grew. Some members questioned his methods, arguing that targeting civilians alienated potential allies. Others believed he had become too reclusive, too removed from the realities of the battlefield. But bin Laden refused to compromise. To him, the mission was absolute, and any deviation was betrayal. If this story is making you rethink the cost of blind conviction, subscribe for more stories that explore the hidden struggles behind infamous lives. As the sun dipped below the horizon, bin Laden's compound grew even quieter. Evening prayers marked the end of the day, but his mind rarely rested. The weight of his choices, the deaths he had caused, and the isolation he lived in were constant companions. Dinner with his family was subdued. Conversations rarely strayed from logistical concerns or religious teachings. Laughter was rare, joy even rarer. His children, too young to fully grasp the gravity of their circumstances, occasionally broke the silence with innocent questions about the outside world, questions he couldn't answer without betraying the truth of their imprisonment. Late at night, bin Laden would retreat to his room. He often wrote in a journal, reflecting on his mission and the state of the world. But even this act of introspection was tinged with paranoia. He knew that one day his location would be discovered. Every plan he made, every word he wrote, was shaped by the knowledge that his time was running out. Would his death inspire his followers? Would his vision live on without him? These questions consumed him, even as the walls of his compound reminded him of the narrow, suffocating existence he had built for himself. If you've ever wondered whether ideology can become its own prison, share your thoughts below. What would you do in his position? Osama bin Laden's life might seem extraordinary from the outside, but it was filled with mundane misery. His days were defined by paranoia, isolation, and the suffocating weight of his beliefs. For all his wealth and infamy, he lived in fear, trapped in a fortress of his own making. The story of bin Laden isn't just about the harm he caused the world. It's also a cautionary tale of how power, wealth, and ideology can turn even the most infamous figures into prisoners of their own making. What do you think about his life? Was the isolation he faced enough of a punishment, or should more have been done? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.